2004, I found myself at the Guinness Brewery at Park Royal. I was leading a project that sought to understand the experience of older men in the contemporary workplace and wider labour market. The brewery was a good place to do this research, as successive waves of restructuring had restricted recruitment over the years, and therefore, with the passage of time, most of the vastly reduced production crew fit the age range I sought. The closure of the brewery had been announced some time before, and it was obvious that it preoccupied all those employed on the site. During a project meeting, I suggested to the manager we were dealing with that Diageo, the owner of the Guinness brand, might like to fund a small piece of research to record the last 6 months of production and the subsequent closure in words. My task was to record oral history interviews with as many workers as I could in the time we had before closure the following summer. The immediate output was to produce a DVD, which was to combine a selection of images with brief passages from the longer oral accounts. It was to act as a family album for those losing their jobs after, in some cases, 4 decades of employment. In discussions with workers, it became apparent just how much history haunted the site itself, and one worker suggested that we visit the archive in Scotland where the records, including photography, of Park Royal were kept. I will never forget the day when the incredibly helpful archivist welcomed me into the wood-panelled front room of the Diageo archive at Menstrie, some 10 miles outside Stirling in central Scotland. Housed in the former manager's house of a whisky distillery owned by Diageo, the building contained archives belonging to the various brands subsumed into the wider Diageo group. Apologetically, she hoped that we had not wasted our time, as there were only 4 archive boxes of Park Royal photographic material. Opening the lid of the first box revealed an amazing visual record of this one site from its beginnings in the 1930s. In just those initial hours in the archive, it became apparent that there was a far larger project to be done, a much richer and more complex story to be told. This small collection was simply the tip of an enormous iceberg. On later visits, I discovered that there were not 4 archive boxes of images, but 59. Masses of material taken for all sorts of reasons over the years to record different types of brewery history for a range of audiences. Through a doorway off the ground floor, the archivist led me to a vast subterranean vault holding the bulk of the archive. The space reminded me of a Bond villain's lair, the type of place that housed the submarine spaceship that will ultimately be destroyed in the film's denouement. In the racks was a complete 3-decade run of the brewery's staff magazine, Guinness Time, begun in 1947. There were masses of other material, including written documents of various shapes and sizes, oral histories carried out by the company over the years, and film and videos of the site, as well as a fish on a bicycle, which is a different anecdote. Of course, the ideas for this project did not arrive out of the blue. I have spent much of my career researching, writing, and teaching about work, industrial decline, closure, and deindustrialization. Leaving school in the early 1980s at age 16, in the midst of a deep recession and an era marked by high unemployment, I began my working life on the London Underground. London transport taught me a lot in a very short time about workplace culture and the employment relationship, and would stand me in good stead when I became a sociologist of work. Railway employment also gave me access to cheap travel around London, as well as the rest of Britain. With workmates, I would set out on journeys around a rapidly changing country in the middle of the Thatcher era, visiting places such as Liverpool, Manchester, Newcastle, Sheffield, Scotland's Central Belt.